Hi girls, just thought I'd come on and take a look at the homework from Pythagoras. So let's start with question 6. So you're given a triangle and the triangle looks like this. And there's a little box here, that's my right angle. You've got a 21, you've got a 20, and this is the side that's missing. So the side that's missing, the first job is to take a look at labelling it. So that's the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. So the formula is the hypotenuse squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So I'm subbing in my values. So this can be my a and this can be my b, or the other way around. It won't make any difference. So I've got my h squared is equal to 21 squared plus 20 squared. And now you're simply working this little portion out. So you can put it all in together if you want. So 21 squared plus 20 squared is equal to 841. And then to get rid of the little 2, we put the hat on, or the square root. So it's the square root of 841. So you're getting the square root of 841. And the answer is 29. Before we leave, we make sure it makes sense. So hypotenuse is 29, these are 21 and 20. It makes sense. Hypotenuse should be the biggest side. Question 7 then. If we take a look at question 7, again, it's the hypotenuse that is missing. So if we take a look, you've got your hypotenuse squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. And from the picture, a squared is 5 and b squared is 12. So h squared is equal to 5 squared plus 12 squared. H squared then is equal to 25 plus 144, which is 169. And then h is equal to the square root of 169, which is equal to 13. We look at question 8, and we take a look at the diagram. Again, the hypotenuse is missing, so again it's h squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, and this time a squared is 15. So it's 15 squared plus 17 squared. So h squared is equal to, and again we pop it in, so 15 squared plus 17 squared is equal to 514. And then h is equal to the square root of 514. And the square root of 514 is not an even number, so it's 22.7. And we normally leave it to 1 decimal place, unless they tell me something otherwise. So they haven't told me anything else, so I leave it to 1 decimal place, so it's 22.67. And again, you check and make sure, and that would be the biggest side, so it makes sense. And we're looking at question 9, and this one is the first one that is a little bit different. So again, we'll take a look at question 9 a little bit closer now. So question 9, you've got a triangle that looks like this, and you've got 8, C, and 10. Okay, so my hypotenuse this time is this one. So I know that this side should be smaller than 10 when I'm finished. So I've got my h squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So I've got 10 squared is equal to 8 squared plus, and you can either change it to the c that they've given you or leave it at the b. It's not going to make any difference to your answer at the end. We'll change it to the letter they wanted, so c squared, but I could leave it at b squared and it won't make any difference. So 100 is equal to 64 plus c squared. And now we're doing a bit more algebra, so there's a little bit more algebra here. I want c squared, I want to know what c is, so what's stopping me having the c is the 64. I say to myself, well, what is 64 doing? It's adding, so to move it, I take it away from both sides. So 100 minus 64 is 36, 64 minus 64 is 0, and therefore disappears, is equal to the c squared. The last part is the same as what we've been doing. How do I get the c on its own? Well, it has a little square. So to get rid of the square, it's the square root of 36, and therefore c is equal to 6. Okay, and if you'd ended up with b is equal to 6, you just pop it up onto your picture and you're fine. Those ones are that little bit harder where you're given the hypotenuse and you have a little bit more work to do. So question 10 is back to the nice simple straightforward ones again. So you've got your h squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So you've got and they've changed the h to a y. You can do it if you want, or you don't have to. I'm not going to bother this time because I did the last time. So h squared is equal to 36 and 49 is 85. And to get rid of it, then it's the square root of 85. And the square root of 85 is, to one decimal place, 9.2 centimetres. Okay, so that brings you to the end of that little section, girls, and taking a look at the hypotenuse. Again, if it's a right angle triangle, it will always work out that the biggest side squared should be equal to the sum of the other two sides. So what I'm going to ask you to do then is, where you're not sure if the triangle is a right angle triangle and you're being asked to prove it, so you're going to take your biggest side and square it and see if it's equal to the sum of the other two. So that's page number 185 and 184, and I'm going to ask you to take a look at question where they're not as simple either. So we might take a look at 11, 12 and 15. So we go 11, 12 and 15. And what I mean by 11 and 12, well, 11's fine, but 12 has triangles where they have square roots of 20 and square roots of 31. They're just the same as any other number. So you still sub them in and you still type them into your calculator. And I just want to see how you cope when it looks slightly different. They're still numbers. Your calculator does all the calculations. The method doesn't change. But we'll have a look and see how you cope. It's particularly with question 12. So we'll take a look at question 11, 12 and 15 for tomorrow. Thank you.